Byers. I am one of the co-presidents of the League of Women Voters. So welcome to this candidate forum for the City Council for the South District. The League, as many of you may know, is nonpartisan. We don't support candidates or parties. Our goal, and we spend a lot of time with voter registration, but is really about educating the public on the civic duties, the civic education around what it is to be a part of our democratic government. So you may have noticed the table when you walked in, but I particularly want to highlight today early voting. So has everybody heard about early voting? You'll need the little pamphlet. It has all the locations for early voting, all the dates and times. It starts on Saturday the 26th and it runs through Sunday, November 3rd. It's a great opportunity. We're really hoping this will help a little bit with turnout. It's really important to know, though, if you decide not to vote in the early days, when November 5th rolls around, you have to go to your assigned polling location. During early voting, you can go to any of the 7 locations. So a lot of flexibility. You'll see a little more automation at the polls. The paper books that you used to sign are now gone. They're iPads you'll be signing. So this enables us to, at each of these early voting locations, have the whole county loaded on those machines, which is how you're able to go to any location. So if you don't have the details, pick up a pamphlet on your way out. Also, I have to advertise vote411.org. It's our website for candidate information in your ballot. So if you go into www.vote411.org, put your address in, you will see what your ballot will look like for the upcoming election, and you will see candidate resumes and positions that are really written by the candidates. So not something that the League interpreted, but directly from the candidates. So a great source of information. Please share it with your neighbors in your associations. So at this point, I want to thank the neighborhood associations for partnering with us today. And I have to get my cheat sheet here for the many groups that are with us. So the Southwedge Planning Committee, the Swilberg Neighborhood Association, the Upper Mount Hope Neighborhood Association, and NBN6. So we are honored today to have Catherine Smith, who's here to my left, to be our moderator. Catherine is a past president of the League of Women Voters and has over 15 years of experience as a moderator. So we're very pleased that she's agreed to be a part of this organization. I want to thank the candidates for being a part of this, as well as thank the school for allowing us to host this event here. And so with the final few housekeeping things, the exits are on either side of the auditorium. The restrooms, the men's room to my right, the ladies' room to my left, if you do need to use those. So with that, we ask that you please respect the candidates, our hosts here at Monroe High School, and our own commitment, the League's own commitment to civil discourse and respectful discourse. Thank you very much, and at this point, I will turn this over to Catherine Smith.
Good evening. Can you hear me? Oh, okay, we'll do it this way.
Want to thank the candidates, Marcus Williams and Alex White, for being with us this evening. Ms. Harris did receive an invitation from the groups. She did not respond. She did not respond to emails. She did not respond to our first-class letter or to our certified letter. The only video tonight is done by the League of Women Voters. The reason we do that is it's a national guideline from the League of Women Voters so that individual candidates or individual groups don't just use a clip from this evening. The League's video will be in its entirety. It will be on our website hopefully by this weekend, so everyone can use it. But we're very careful that other groups not have any opportunity to use just a clip out of this evening.
Hold the microphone up to your mouth, please.
I would ask that everyone turn off their phones if you haven't done that already. Thank you. The candidates have agreed to the league rules. Each person has 1 minute and 30 seconds to answer a question. Then the other candidate has 30 seconds to respond. Our timekeeper is here in the front row. The candidates haven't been informed of our system. We use a green card, but they have 30 seconds left out of the 90. The yellow will say they have 15 seconds, and the red says it's time to stop with that one particular question or response.
Excuse me, they have 1 minute for the response, 1:30 for the first person, 1 minute for the second.
It's a good yes or no, isn't it?
Responses will be 1 minute. We're very pleased to be here, and I know all of you work very hard with your neighborhood associations. This is the 100th anniversary of the League of Women Voters. I don't know if people know that. And we've been celebrating all year because, of course, here locally, we feel such a responsibility because Susan B. Anthony started the League of Women Voters, so we really feel obligated to try to keep our league active and do as many things as we possibly can. Our members are very active people, so we've been very pleased this past year. And we have even better plans for next year, which does include a fair amount of partying on our 100th anniversary and the 100th anniversary of women getting the right to vote in the United States. So on that note, we're going to begin with questions that have been submitted by the sponsoring organizations, and then written questions from anyone in the audience. And we have several league members that will be glad to give you cards, pencils, collect them, and give them to me. I do use a little bit of discretion. If I find that questions are becoming repetitive, I'm not going to read the third question asked a slightly different way if we already have answers from both candidates. And with league policy, I would not read any question that was to one candidate or anything that was considered personal or in a vein that we're not used to having. And I don't have any problems with it tonight. Some audiences, it can become an issue. So, this evening we have Marcus Williams, who's an entrepreneur, a business consultant, and a leadership membership coach. As an advocate for forward thinking and advancement, he has worked for sustainable development and sustainable government spending. A proponent of preventing gun violence, he has proposed many initiatives to get illegal guns off the streets. Mr. White is a teacher, and you say an ex-teacher, formerly a teacher, an activist, and a business owner. He has been active in politics, running for mayor, city council several times. He's a frequent critic of the city government. He has worked on many important campaigns and has been instrumental in saving OACES, and later, Mr. White, I'm going to ask you to explain that one to me. School, which promotes career planning for people without a high school education, getting body-worn cameras on police officers, starting the market-driven co-op initiative, and helping numerous small businesses stay in business, to name some of his successes. He lives in the South Wedge, where he took care of his father for 7 years. Mr. Marcus, I'm going to ask you if you would begin with your opening statement, please.
Hi, my name is Marcus C. Williams, and I'm running for City Council for the South District because our community means a lot to me, and I feel like I haven't been represented by City Council very well, and I'm sure that many of you guys feel the same, probably all of you, really. For decades, lots of things have been overlooked in our various communities and areas. We have great community organizations and outreach programs that do their best, but the key thing would be actual government interaction to do their jobs. You know, my focus things are financial literacy, community empowerment, and fiscal responsibility. I believe those are probably the most important things that we can focus on to help prepare our city for the future and get future ready, because that's the direction we need to be moving in, is preparing for the future that we're experiencing now and what's coming up.
Mr. White?
Hi, everybody. I hope you don't mind if I don't stand. I'm not as young as Marcus is. I've been doing business on Monroe Avenue for 24 years. Before that, I was a teacher. But what I've really been for almost that entire time is an activist. And I've seen many of you at meetings. I have been with you on various projects, and I have helped you. I've helped some of you on the things that you want. And the reason I feel this is important to point out is because one of the big problems, and one of the reasons I'm running, is because it shouldn't be so hard to have a voice in the government that we have. It shouldn't be so difficult to get a city council member over to visit your meetings, and it shouldn't be so hard to do the things that to get the government to do the things they should be doing. I've been working on that for the last 20 years, and I want to continue doing it as a city council member representing you.
Thank you. The first question will go to you, Mr. White. In your view, what are the two greatest challenges you believe the city of Rochester and its residents are facing today? And as a city council member, what strategies would you support in addressing those two challenges?
I love the fact you get a minute and a half to answer these. The biggest problem in my mind is poverty. More than 33% of Rochesterians live in poverty. It is affecting the businesses, it's affecting the neighborhoods, it's affecting the tax base. It is a serious drag on our city. The problem is that what we need to do about this is we need to get more resources into the hands of people living in poverty, and we can do that, city can do that many ways. We can work to lower housing costs, we can fight to lower RG&E costs by creating a public utility. We can insist that all development has actual low-income housing in it, rather than low-income housing for people who live in Fairport. And we can also find ways to make the resources that the city has been cutting, libraries, recreation, after-school programs, make them more available and refund them so that people can have them as support. The second biggest problem I think that we have in this city is our schools. In 15 seconds. The city has been fighting with the school district for 15 years, refusing to give them the money that they need, and as a result, we've kept school taxes the same for 14 years. And I am done.
And we may come back to that issue.
I bet.
Mr. Marcus.
Can you repeat the question, please?
In your view, what are the two greatest challenges you believe the city of Rochester and the residents are facing today? As a city council member, what strategies would you support in addressing those challenges?
Oh wow, I don't know if I can answer all that in a minute, but I'll do my best. The biggest thing that's impacting us, one of the things that he mentioned was poverty. but people really look at it very differently than it should be. We need to focus on financial literacy. We're not able to empower people to come out of poverty unless they're aware of what they can do with their money, how banks work, how money works. If you don't know how it works, you're not able to make it work for you. That's number one. And we need to get more people to purchase houses in the communities that they live in instead of bringing them from outside of the communities. Second, I would say is future readiness. The city just has so many infrastructure issues. We can talk about the water and the sewage. We can talk about the aging electric grid, both of which are as old as Susan B. Anthony. And it's something that we need to work on moving forward on. Things like that and just a ton of other things. But we're not ready for what we're experiencing from climate issues right now, nor are we from what's happening to different markets in the economy.
Mr. Williams, the second question begins with you. It was reported in the DNC in June that Krista Construction said market rate housing is saturated. What types of new residential development should the city be focusing on, and what should the criteria be for financial incentives for the developers?
That's tough. Okay, let me make it simple as possible. I don't think that there should be any projects authorized for the next 3 to 5 years for actual luxury or market rate development because the market is saturated. I believe we need that time as a moratorium so that the housing can be filled that's already out there because there's a surplus of it and it needs to be filled before we move into that again. Now, as far as affordable housing goes, we need to rework some of the zoning and codes as far as implementing housing structures for building new housing so we can make it more affordable for people to actually build houses, possibly even smaller houses than we're used to seeing, because we have a ton of vacant lots and it should be more cost effective if somebody wants to purchase a lot and build a small house. So that would be one way. We also need to look into different community living options that are kind of like, not to say like hostels or something like that, but that is the way that a lot of millennials are living in other large cities and small cities throughout Europe, and that could be a solution for us because a lot of people in the younger age brackets do like living together in more of a community-oriented environment.
Would you like me to repeat it? In the report in the DNC in June, Krista Construction said market rate housing is saturated. What types of new residential development should the city be focusing on, and what should the criteria be for financing incentives from the developers?
Haven't we incented the developers enough? I've spent a decade documenting this and the millions of dollars we've given them. About $40 million by the city's number every year in tax breaks. And this year we've already given out to the developers over $7 million in cash. So do they need any more profit incentives? At the end, they're going to own property and rent it and make money off of it. The idea of incenting them is crazy talk. What we need in Rochester, though, is actual low-income housing. Unfortunately, we use the area median income to determine this, and 60% of the area median income is above the city median income. So if we're really going to get into low-income housing, we need to do things that will aim at about the $200 to $600 range on rent, and we can do this by creating home ownership through using foreclosed properties.
Question 3 begins with you. Rochester 2034, the proposed comprehensive plan for the city of Rochester foresees the growth of population, especially among transportation arteries. How would you work to preserve neighborhoods and avoid displacement as neighborhoods grow and gentrify?
There's a lot of assumptions in that question, and there's a lot of fear in the census coming up that the city of Rochester might fall below 200,000 people. 2034 works on the assumption that our population is going to magically grow. Not that it has any actual plan to make that happen, it just believes. And I think that that's one of the biggest problems. I am a huge fan of empowering neighborhoods and residents. I want zoning to be in the hands, I want a zoning veto to be in the hands of neighborhoods. I want neighborhoods to be able to get together and determine what they want the zoning to be within their neighborhood. I want there to be meetings where the neighbors get to vote on spending money for projects in their area that they want and not on projects they don't. I believe we cannot empower neighbors enough in trying to handle the development issue, because neighbors are not going to vote for displacing themselves. And that's the real issue with gentrification. And the biggest problem with it is the city has been funneling money into this, and if you don't think so, they've spent over $7 million attaining property in Bull's Head and kicking out all the current residents. And this should not be happening if the voters in the area were able to get together and say no.
Mr. Williams?
Would you like me to repeat it?
Please. Rochester 2034, the proposed comprehensive plan for the city of Rochester foresees a growth in population, especially among transportation arteries. How would you work to preserve neighborhoods and avoid displacement as neighborhoods grow and gentrify?
It goes back to encouraging home ownership and financial literacy. A lot of people aren't able to purchase homes in their communities because they have credit scores that have been hit hard, because they never really knew what one was or how to manage it, because they're not sure exactly how to preserve their finances and prepare for home ownership. And in order to help prevent gentrification from hitting and impacting the neighborhood so hard, we have to work at making it stable for people who own homes right now, and encourage home ownership for people in the neighborhoods presently. As far as curtailing gentrification, that's a little difficult, but it can be done through more networking inside of the community. Not everybody comes out to community meetings and stuff like that, and I know it's difficult for associations to get out there and things like that to knock on everybody's door. But the city needs to become more active as the council in actually going out and reaching out to the neighborhoods.
And we'll go and begin with you, Mr. Williams. Would you support a city of Rochester prohibiting a candidate for municipal office receiving campaign donations from private developers who often receive tax rebates, exemptions, loans, or funding from the city government? Why or why not?
100%, because it's ridiculous. I don't understand. It doesn't make any common sense or any sense at all. If you have a luxury development that you want to build, you should have the luxury development money to build it. It shouldn't have to come off of the backs of the taxpayers, and it shouldn't be something that's a wish and a prayer that you want to succeed. You should be confident enough to put your own money where your mouth is, as they say. So if you're going to be building all types of things and you want to do everything in the city, you shouldn't be putting somebody that's in politics in your pocket to make sure that they're working for you instead of the people who elected them. That's not okay with me. That's not okay at all, and I know it's not okay with a lot of you guys.
Yes. This has been in my platform before. It has cost us a fortune. Last year, the city gave out $11 million in cash and $172 million in tax breaks to their campaign donors, to Lovely Warden's campaign donors. And we are being seriously underserved by this. It should be illegal. The state rule for quid pro quo is too strong. It should be go to a jury and let the jury decide if there's substantial connection without needing a quid pro quo. Because if someone gives someone else $10,000 and then the other person turns around and gives that person $1.5 million of public money that isn't really theirs, like happened to David Krista just recently for his project on Union Street. I believe everyone can see the conflict of interest there, and it should be punishable by law.
Mr. White, what role do you see for City Council in resolving the current fiscal problems of the Rochester City School District?
Well, they're going to have to do it. The state has said they're not going to come in and find the money. The school district doesn't have the money, and the city is going to be forced in one way or another to bond $30 million and hand it over to the schools, which in my mind will be a wonderful thing because they will finally raise the MOE, which is the maintenance of effort, which the city is required to give the school district no less than that amount. And that amount was set in 2006. So it's about time that it went up. The schools need more money if we are going to ever educate our children. And by overspending in the last 2 years, which the school district did, they were able to raise the graduation rate almost 10 points. And I think that is a damning statement about the need for money in our school district. And as a city council member, I am not afraid to fight for the kids and to provide them the money they deserve.
Mr. Williams.
I don't understand where everybody's thinking is everything's solution is throw some money at it. The schools have plenty of money. The issue isn't the money or the missing money, even though that's a big problem all to its own. Somebody needs to go to jail for that, but that's a side conversation. The issue is the way in which we're educating the children. Okay? There are so many different school systems all throughout the world that have a much higher literacy rate and better graduation rate with so much less funds. It's crazy. And we should be able to educate our children without trying to just throw money at the solution. We need systematic solutions as far as the way that we're educating them, not just throwing money. Let's improve the school, let's improve this, when they don't even have textbooks anymore. It's ridiculous. We need to come up with alternative options and stop doing things the same ways that we've done them for decades.
Mr. White would like to respond.
When you're $30 million short, no one walked out of the school district with that in a bag. This wasn't embezzled. This was spent. This was spent on social workers and substitute teachers. This was spent on special education, and this was spent on English language learners. The money went to good educational purposes, and it was already spent, and we now need to find that money because the city has been doing everything to short the district of money over the years, and it has become a critical issue.
Mr. Williams, a question for you. The governor has signed legislation which permits municipalities throughout the state to enact rent control legislation. Would you favor such legislation in Rochester? And if so, what specific regs would you like to have included?
Okay. Yes, 100%. I've said that before, and I always thought that that was a very good way to go about it. A lot of the issues are that rents have been increased in areas where historically they've been less. So we should focus on how much people have been paying in these neighborhoods previously, and we should come up with an aggregate based on what they're paying in order to see what we should do for rent control in various areas, because like, let's say the 19th ward might not be the same as what's in Swillsburg. So we can't make the operations of the whole city be one thing. It needs to be looked at neighborhood specific, and that's something we should come to the community associations and the neighborhood associations for and find out and get input from them. I don't have all the solutions, but I do have some great ideas, and I'm definitely open to anybody's input that would like to give me some information on what they believe might be the best course of action. Thank you.
I've read the legislation, and there's a lot of misunderstanding about it. The rent control is only going to apply to apartments in buildings that have 4 or more apartments in them. It's only going to apply to a percentage increase allowed. And the problem is that in some cases, a new owner will buy a building and increase the rent by 40 or 50%. And rent control is the idea that there should be some sort of limit on that, maybe 10 or 15%, that if the most rent can be raised in a single year on a tenant who has been living there for more than 1 year. And that seems entirely reasonable unless substantial work is being done to the building, which have to be offset by a larger rent, which is also allowed in the legislation to be included. And I believe that with the formation of property court, we'd be able to solve these issues pretty easily.
Yes.
Mr. Williams would like to respond. If we open a property court, wouldn't we have to institute all types of new laws to go along with that? Because if we really want to see the results that we want, that we actually want to achieve, we would need to go differently than the way that we've been going. So that is something that would definitely have to be hammered out. And we need to look in a different direction of operating than we've been doing in the past. Look to the future's for a solution, not the past.
Mr. White, next question. Should either of you be elected along with 2 other non-Democratic Party candidates? 6 of the 9 members of City Council will be Democrats. How will you get your voice heard in city government and ensure the residents of the South District get the city's services that they deserve?
I have been endorsed by City Council, by Jose Pio, who is going to be the City Council representative to the Northwest and is a Democrat. I have, for quite a while, been working with a couple City Council members in which I provide them information and they ask questions or get more details about things that are being put up. I believe that I can work with enough Democrats that we can form at least a 4 or 5 person block to try to promote the residents and promote the public, which is something that has not been happening very well in city government for years. And I would like to, one of the reasons I consider this a very important election is because this is really the first chance in years to break that sort of hold that the mayors have had over city council that allows them to force through anything they want. And this is important because we're going to have zoning legislation come up, because we're going to have this big fight over how we resolve the school issue, and because we're going to have we may have still more problems with police accountability, all which are crucially important for providing a better, safer, and growing community.
Mr. Williams?
It's real simple. Me personally, I like to work with everybody.